Welcome to another video. My name's Chase. This is my garage. Behind me is my 1979 Oldsmobile custom cruiser that I'm putting a LB7 Duramax and an Allison 5-speed transmission in. If you haven't already, go watch the other two videos. You can click on that somewhere here, however you put that on the screen. I'm still learning how to do this. Today's video, we're going to be talking about how I'm going to get this thing running. And running in the sense of this car did not come with this engine originally. My first challenge was getting the entire wiring harness and computers and this and that out of the donor truck, getting the wiring harness off the engine itself, everything I would have needed to get this engine running. Now, I myself don't mind doing wiring. I actually kind of enjoy it. We got a little joke about Taylor race wiring. We'll talk about that later on, but the joke went as far as making little stickers for it, so that's pretty fun. Anyways, how are we going to get this thing going? I took the time to sit down and kind of go over some wiring harness stuff and this and that, and I decided it's probably going to be best for me to send out the harness and let somebody else do it. Reason being is I'm going to have to get the computers flashed anyways to leave this on a standalone system. If I'm going to have to get them flashed, I might as well have somebody that knows what they're doing go through the harness and clean it up anyways. I started doing my research on that. I think I decided on sending out the harness to standaloneharness.com. They seem to have the most information on their website regarding everything that they do. It's full of, it covers everything. You know, it has a whole FAQ listing on there, and I didn't have any other questions that I could think of after reading through the website. He also has like two or three YouTube videos visually pointing out, explaining everything that they would like done before you send the harness in. So today's video, we're going to see about getting this harness out of that garbage bag, and kind of separating everything, then getting it ready to get shipped out. So how did I get to this point? Well, it wasn't easy to get off, but it took a lot of patience. So in order to get the upper harness off, I did end up cutting some of these rubber hoses, but they're going to get replaced anyways. The lower harness was kind of tricky to feed through some places, especially like anything that intertwined with the upper harness. It didn't just unplug from everywhere like easy peasy. Feeding the computers out wasn't that bad because they're normally just right there on the side. So I gotta take off all this conduit, tape, brackets, anything that's not the harness. I gotta make sure it's kind of off and cleaned up before I send it out. Standalone harness has got some really good videos on what you need to do. I guess I could put a link in the bio or the comments or whatever it is in the bottom of this video for their website. I'm not sponsored, I'm not nothing, that's who I plan on using. And then the computers, I have to do a little bit more reading or read again. Those are getting sent out to dmaxswap.com per recommendation of standaloneharness.com. I'll have to read that all again, but it's been a couple months since I went through all that. I did take this harness out about a month ago, 2 months ago. It's just been sitting in that trash bag since. The wiring is going to have to get done eventually, because once I get engine mounts and transmission mount going and done, the rest of everything should be smooth sailing. It's just going to cost money and a little bit of time. So I guess I'll get the video back in probably a couple hours when all this is cleaned up, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, we're going to rewind for a minute. I just rewatched the videos on standaloneharness.com. So this is the bare minimal of what I need to send for the ECM stuff. This jumbled mess is just battery cable related stuff. He says take all that off. They're not going to do anything with it anyways. Guess I didn't remember that I don't even have to take off the convoluted tubing and tape and this and that. I just went ahead and took off the loose tape that was peeling up already. I took off the little clips and brackets that were still there. That way that's ready to go. Battery cable stuff, I will have to see. I'll probably end up making my own battery harness stuff. Then as for the upper engine harness stuff, I read the website several times. I watched his video again and again. He doesn't say LB7 in the video, but the website just says something along the lines of, for this price we can also redo your upper harness, but in the word description it doesn't specify LB7. It just says we can do it. So I'm gonna have to send an email. So what's gonna be pretty neat about this standalone system, I'll still be utilizing the cruise control because it's running off of the ECM. This car did have cruise control from factory. Originally it would have worked off of vacuum, but I had taken all that out, and I'll also be able to utilize, or should be able to utilize, my factory gauges. When I got the car, I didn't have any of this gauge paneling, dash panel, whatever you want to call it, just this upper cluster. There wasn't a vent or any of the trim. I didn't have the lower trim around the column piece, but I ended up finding that outer piece on eBay. It had the vent in it still, which was great. It had the hole for the wiper switch that I already had. I already had the wiper knob, or the knob for the headlight, but when I went to look for a lower panel, I couldn't find anything that had the lower column piece under there, which I have sitting right there. But I found one. The ones that I did find, they had, like, people had riveted things to them, or it was cracked or this or that. I was like, well, I don't want to do that. So I changed some wording in the search on eBay, and I ended up finding this lower piece that's technically for Olds Delta 88. I thought it was cool because the Olds 88 had the option for these 3 gauges, and I can only assume that the gauges still work, but if they don't, I'm definitely going to try to get them working again. Now it's all kind of wrapped up. I got a full dash again. It's pretty nice. You'll notice here, this whole, I believe originally it would have just had a custom cruiser logo. I thought it'd be cool if I got the analog clock out of a Delta 88 as well, since they pretty much share the same dash. Again, that's another unknown working condition, but if it doesn't work, I'm gonna try my best to make it work. There again, this was an original diesel vehicle, diesel fuel only. Pretty neat. And I guess this first look on the inside of the car, at least the dash area. I ended up buying this service manual about a year ago when I was first trying to really start on things, or get ready to start on things. I kind of did my research and looked through. Turns out I got the book on eBay, but the seller was actually, I don't even think, an hour away from where I live. I could have really just drove and picked it up. There's the inside. I got the bench seat. The middle folds down to an armrest. I kind of got everything apart, or not apart, but down right now. I do need a headliner eventually. I got the front clip and bumper sitting in the back right now. The back seats are folded down, the bench is folded down, and then, you know, I do have the rear facing seats in the back, and I have the panel kind of over there, so you know this bad girl can carry sheets of plywood if I needed to. We'll get to that eventually. Those videos will be later on down the road. The first priority is getting it on the road. Couple more things, a little bit more time, unfortunately a little bit more money, but we're getting there. There's a good chance I do hit my goal of getting this done by the end of May. It's just gonna really take some focus and patience and some willpower, but we'll get it done. Alrighty, got everything stuffed in that little box. little big box. Put a slip of paper in there with my contact information per them. Get that taped up and shipped out in the morning. So this is what we got left. A small little pile of loose factory electrical tape. I didn't necessarily have to pull that off, but I figured it was already peeling. I'd make their lives a hair easier. I got the stack of control modules. Now, I don't think I have to do anything with the fuel injector control module here, but I will be sending the ECM and TCM out. Whatever plastic piece that is, and a couple little brackets that were on the harness still. The ground and power cables, so battery cables and ground cables that were on everything. And the upper engine harness plastic piece that runs through the intercooler pipe stuff, all that's going to get cleaned up. I did go ahead and email, and I already got an email back from standaloneharness.com that they can and they will clean up your LB7 engine harness for an additional fee. That's not something that's listed standard on the website, but I wanted to confirm that LB7 is still a thing. LB7 is good to go. So that was the second harness that I stuffed in that box. So it probably won't be in this video, but the next step with all this wiring stuff, I do have to get a hold of dmaxswap.com. That's who standaloneharness.com recommends to flash the computers. I know I mentioned in my very first video that, you know, I'm not trying to hot rod this thing. I'm not trying to soup it up anytime soon, do anything crazy with it at the moment. One, I can't afford that at the moment. But two, once this is hooked up, it is getting hooked up to the factory 10-bolt rear end still. And I believe, I haven't taken the cover off, but I'm pretty sure this is still a 7.5 10-bolt, not even the 8.5 10-bolt. So as soon as I start, you know, getting on this thing, I've broken my share of axles. Not really, I've broken a axle from a 10-bolt before, but as soon as I start getting on it, I don't trust this rear end. So I gotta be gentle with it for now, as much as I'm gonna want to spin tires and this and that, and, you know, be nice to it. But I think that's gonna wrap up this little video. I'm not quite sure what's planned for the next one, but we'll see. Keep an eye out for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.